Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another video by Scully. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about something today that I think about relatively often, and I'm sure a lot of us have probably had at least some experience with it, especially if you have a mental illness of your very own. But it's pretty common for a lot of people with mental illnesses to have more than one that they're dealing with rather than just dealing with only one. So in this video, I wanted to talk about coexisting mental disorders, also called comorbidities. I may or may not be saying that word right, but yeah, so coexisting mental illnesses, I'd say, is probably far more common than uncommon in this world. It can be very, very difficult because they both are going to create quite a bit of chaos in the person's life. It can affect not only their life, but their symptoms, and then, of course, things like treatment can also be very difficult. Not only because you have to treat both mental conditions, but you could initially get diagnosed with one mental condition, such as depression, and kind of be primarily focused on treating that one, but then you could have another one, like anxiety, and especially if it contributes to your depression, well, you definitely want to have that one treated as well. Otherwise, that one will still create a lot of issues, even if the depression in itself is being treated. And another area with why this can be so complicated is that getting diagnosed in general can be very difficult because a lot of mental illnesses have very similar symptoms that overlap. You could see, especially if you have a disease like bipolar that's episodic, you could see different doctors, different times, different days, different periods of your life, and they could have a different opinion on what they think is going on with you. And it's very hard to let people who only kind of see you every so often to treat you. And especially if you're somebody who has to, you've had maybe a couple doctors that you've seen, and you've had to, for whatever reason, find another one at some point, whether it's because the other one didn't work out, or insurance issues, or maybe what they thought was going on with you versus what you suspected was going on with you. You kind of felt like you were going down two paths that were like parallel lines that don't cross. And in terms of your treatment and stability and getting better, that's going to create a lot of issues in the long run. So with comorbidities, that can increase the likelihood of sometimes being misdiagnosed. And again, it's kind of a case by case, and I'm no doctor. I don't claim to be one by any means. I am definitely not. But I feel like that when I hear about people with multiple mental illnesses that they live with, quite a few of them have had to kind of get in a second opinion many times in their life because maybe they initially thought that they had something like maybe bipolar or depression or anxiety and some other things, but maybe rather than having bipolar, they had depression and they had ADHD, which depending can look pretty similar, especially depending on which one's more prominent when you're being seen, and if you've maybe even tried taking certain medications to treat it, why maybe they didn't work when in somebody who had, for example, if you were being treated for ADHD and you actually had bipolar, and if they gave you a stimulant and then you go into a manic episode, well, that kind of isn't supposed to happen if you have ADHD, so that can definitely be kind of like evident, like, hey, something else is going on here. Maybe I should ask my doctor about this, or kind of, see what this means. And this is just such an interesting topic to talk to people about because it's quite fascinating of a topic to see how complex the brain is, but it's also quite aggravating because you can live with these symptoms for a very, very long time, feel like you're not getting any better, wonder why you're not getting any better, even when you're taking your medications, trying to live a pretty healthy life. So it can just feel like that you're just jogging in place and like you're not getting anywhere. And I recently had a conversation with somebody about that, and it's something I think about quite a bit. So I definitely kind of wanted to bring that up as a topic of discussion. Well, and when it comes to getting treatment, another thing I really wanted to bring up is that one of the hardest things with suffering from really any medical condition, especially mental illness, you are definitely at the mercy of, because you can't be your own doctor or anything like that, which is understandable, but you can be your own advocate for your treatment. So if for whatever reason you're having issues with getting treatment, or you just don't feel like something's quite right, and you really don't feel like you're being heard to some degree, obviously there's right and wrong ways to go about such a matter, but there's nothing wrong with, like, if you have a doctor, just in a very polite, respectful way, just kind of telling them, like, I'm very concerned. I don't feel like this treatment's helping me, or, I was originally diagnosed with this, and I'm not so sure I agree with this diagnosis because I personally don't feel like this fits me. It doesn't fit my symptoms. And of course, you're going to want to know why. But you can have a professional way of letting people know this so that it doesn't cause too much conflict. If you make a list of reasons as to why you feel it doesn't fit you, and you really monitor all your symptoms, and because again, these people don't see you every minute of every day, you can come back very organized, very informed, very aware, and have a very, just very calm discussion about, I really am concerned about my treatment, my health getting better, and because I'm on these medications that are not helping, I don't feel are helping me, and I don't feel like these symptoms are getting better, and I honestly don't feel like this is what's wrong with me. Is there any way maybe we could take a look at some of these things and try to see if we can figure out perhaps another matter? And again, it's easy to kind of okay, somebody tells you you have something, your first instinct might be denial, which is normal. But this is, again, assuming that this has been going on for quite some time and you're not seeing any results. Like maybe you've been undergoing treatment for years and you're still feeling like something needs to be looked at again to see what's going on. So yeah, this is kind of something that's a very complicated, delicate matter. But having multiple coexisting mental illnesses, I mean, it can really affect people more than they think. And even though it's quite a long process to figure out what's going on, what medications work, you can be your own advocate. You can stick up for yourself to some degree. Again, appropriately, if you kind of methodically go about it. But there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion if you feel something's not right. And if you feel like you could have something that the symptoms are very similar to something else, you do know yourself better than anybody else at the end of the day. So don't be afraid to want some sort of change if you want to try something new. But just remember that those people are there to help you. They want you to get better also. And I'm sure at the end of the day, they have their best interest in helping you. So don't burn any bridges if you can help it. Just try to give them a chance. And if things really aren't going well, then you are allowed to go your own way. And see if maybe you can find somebody who's on the same page as you. But anyway, until next time, have a great day.